Why cutting lattes won't make you rich. How many years have you spent obsessing over $5 coffee, convinced that's what's holding you back? Has skipping brunch ever actually built real wealth for you? Or are you just caught in a loop of guilt, restriction and self-blame, where every small indulgence feels like a financial failure? The exhausting mental trap of penny pinching. You've been taught that financial freedom is built on sacrifice, that the only way to get ahead is to cut, shrink, and deny yourself everything extra. So you track every dollar, you stress over small purchases, you shame yourself for eating out, for buying name brand, for spending on anything that isn't a bare necessity. And yet, you're still stuck. Because no matter how much you cut back, it never feels like enough. The truth they don't tell you. Ramit Sethi calls this out for what it is, a distraction. The real reason people struggle financially isn't because they buy coffee or order takeout. It's because they're focusing on the wrong things. They obsess over $5 lattes, but ignore $500 in hidden fees and bad investments. They feel guilty about eating out, but never negotiate their salary. They cancel subscriptions, but keep a car payment that eats up their income. You can't budget your way to wealth if your income is limited, your investments are non-existent, and your financial strategy is just spend less. What actually moves the needle? If you want real financial freedom, stop micromanaging small expenses and start making bigger moves. Earn more, negotiate your salary, start a side hustle, build income streams that actually grow. Invest wisely. Put money where it compounds, not where it just sits. Eliminate major expenses. Get rid of high-interest debt, not small luxuries. Stop saying no to small joys. Start saying yes to big opportunities. If cutting lattes made people rich, we'd all be millionaires by now. But that's not how wealth works. So the question isn't, how much can I sacrifice? It's, what's actually holding me back? Because until you focus on the big picture, you'll stay stuck, cutting, restricting, and exhausted without ever getting ahead. The budgeting lie that keeps you poor. You've been told that the secret to wealth is cutting back. Spend less, downsize, live small, and if you're still struggling, cut back even more. But Ramit Sethi calls this out for what it is, a broken system that keeps you poor. But why budgeting feels like a prison? Society glorifies sacrifice. It convinces you that living on the bare minimum is noble, responsible, and the only way to get ahead. So you build a strict budget. You track every dollar. You feel guilty for spending on anything that isn't an absolute necessity. And for what? You still feel trapped? You still feel like you're never saving enough? You still feel like any slip-up is financial failure? Because that's the lie no one tells you. Cutting back has a limit. You can only shrink your spending so much before life stops being enjoyable. Why traditional budgeting is broken. Most budgets aren't designed for freedom. They're designed for fear. They make you feel guilty for every purchase. They convince you that spending is equal to failure. They force you into a scarcity mindset where your only goal is to survive, not grow. So you spend your life playing defense, trying to manage scarcity instead of focusing on the real game, building abundance. Abundance greater than scarcity. Here's the truth. No one gets rich by cutting Netflix and eating rice and beans. Real wealth comes from earning more, negotiating higher pay, starting businesses, creating new income streams, investing wisely, putting money where it grows, not just where it sits, spending on what matters, using money to improve your life, not just avoid guilt. If your entire financial strategy is spend less, you're measuring success by how little you can live on, instead of how much you can create. Are you trapped in the scarcity game? Ask yourself, are you budgeting because you're afraid of running out, or because you're building toward more? Are you shrinking your life to fit your income, or expanding your income to fit the life you actually want? Because if you're stuck in a system that only teaches you how to cut back, you're playing a game you'll never win. Real success isn't about spending less. It's about creating more. Why penny pinching is a distraction from real wealth. How many hours have you spent searching for discounts, comparing prices, and stressing over tiny expenses that barely change your financial future? Clipping coupons to save a few bucks at the grocery store, driving across town for cheaper gas, scrolling for hours, looking for the absolute lowest price on something you were going to buy anyway. And for what? A few dollars? A small temporary win? The time cost of small savings. Have you ever actually added it up? How much time have you spent trying to save $50 and asked yourself if it was worth it? If you value your time at $30 an hour and you spent 3 hours hunting for deals, you didn't save money, you lost time. And time? That's something you can't get back. Penny pinching keeps you in survival mode. Society convinces you that small savings are the key to financial security, that if you just cut back enough, budget hard enough, and never waste a single cent, you'll eventually get ahead. But has that ever worked? You save $10 here, $20 there, but rent is still due. Debt is still piling up. And the real financial goals, still out of reach. Focus on growth, not scraps. Ramit Sethi calls this what it is, a distraction. Instead of wasting energy trying to save pennies, you should be using that energy to grow your income. Negotiate a raise that adds thousands to your salary instead of stressing over a $5 coffee. Start a side business that brings in real money instead of obsessing over grocery coupons. Invest in skills that increase your earning potential instead of wasting hours finding the lowest price on detergent. Because cutting costs has a limit, but growing your income doesn't. Are you fighting for crumbs while ignoring the meal? So ask yourself, are you spending more time saving money than making it? Are you constantly asking, how do I cut another $10 instead of how do I bring in another $1,000? Because the people who build real wealth aren't the ones who mastered spending less. They're the ones who figured out how to earn more. So stop chasing crumbs. There's an entire meal waiting, but only if you stop wasting time on what doesn't matter. Ramit Sethi's solution: spend big on what you love. Cut mercilessly elsewhere. Most financial advice tells you to cut, restrict, and sacrifice, to shrink your life until you finally feel in control. Ramit Sethi says that's backwards. Instead of trying to eliminate joy, his solution is simple. Spend fearlessly on what you love and cut everything else without mercy. The power of intentional indulgence. Imagine this: luxury travel, not just budget trips, but the experiences you actually dream about. Dining out at your favorite spots, without guilt, without second guessing. Investing in your passion projects and hobbies, the things that make you feel alive. This isn't about reckless spending, it's about intentional indulgence. Because when you intentionally spend big on what lights you up, money stops feeling like a source of guilt and starts feeling like a tool for joy, cutting without guilt. But here's the key: you can't have everything. That's why Sethi teaches the concept of merciless cutting on things that don't truly matter to you. Mindless subscriptions, gone. Random impulse purchases, eliminated. Useless upgrades and status symbols, not even a thought. Because every dollar you stop wasting is a dollar you can reallocate to the things that actually make your life better. From guilt to control. Most people's relationship with money is built on shame and restriction. They constantly tell themselves, I can't afford this, instead of, I choose to spend here and not there. That shift changes everything. Suddenly, your financial plan isn't about cutting joy. It's about funding your dream life. Are you funding what truly matters? Look at your last 3 months of spending. How much went to things that actually light you up? And how much was just mindless, unnecessary or guilt-driven spending. Now ask yourself, are you sacrificing what matters most because you're too busy feeling guilty about what doesn't? Design your life, not just your budget. This is your challenge. Create a spending plan that funds your real desires, not one built on constant restriction. Because true financial freedom isn't about spending less on everything. It's about spending unapologetically on what makes your life extraordinary and cutting the rest without hesitation. How fear-based budgets keep you small. Most budgeting advice is built on fear, lack, and limitation. Cut back. Live below your means. Say no. And so you try. You create a budget that's all about restriction, constantly telling yourself what you can't have, what you shouldn't spend, what's off limits. But has that actually made you rich? Or just exhausted, frustrated, and stuck in a cycle of never having enough? The restrictive mindset that shrinks your future. Traditional budgeting teaches you to play defense, to survive instead of thrive. You shrink your goals to fit inside your paycheck. You avoid spending instead of learning how to earn more. You make financial decisions from a place of fear, not power. And slowly, without realizing it, your vision of what's possible gets smaller and smaller until your entire financial life is just about getting by. Real wealth isn't built on no. Ramit Sethi says that real financial power doesn't come from constantly restricting yourself. It comes from designing a life so rich and intentional that you don't have to obsess over every dollar. Imagine waking up and never stressing about money again. Not because you cut everything down to the bare minimum, but because you built something bigger than just enough. Stop limiting your dreams to match your paycheck. Here's the truth. You don't have a spending problem, you have an income problem. And yet, instead of asking, how do I grow, you've been trained to ask, how do I survive on less? But what if you flipped that? Instead of stressing over a $10 expense, you focused on earning another $1,000. Instead of cutting things that make you happy, you build income streams that fund them effortlessly. Instead of budgeting for a life that feels small, you designed one that makes you excited to wake up every day. Start playing offense. You can keep shrinking your dreams to fit your paycheck, or you can expand your income to fit your dreams. So which game are you going to play? The power of earning more. Why it changes everything. You can only cut back so much. There's a limit to how much you can save, restrict, and sacrifice, but there's no limit to how much you can earn. Why? More income is the ultimate unlock. When you increase your income, everything changes. Bills become background noise instead of a constant stressor. You stop obsessing over tiny expenses because they no longer matter. You gain the freedom to spend without fear, not by cutting back, but by building bigger. And suddenly, instead of budgeting for survival, you start designing a life that actually excites you. The life you're missing out on. Imagine waking up one day and never worrying about money again. Not because you've squeezed every penny, but because your income is so much bigger that expenses barely register. You can take the trips you want without guilt. You can invest aggressively, knowing you have the cash flow to back it up. You can buy what matters to you without checking price tags. That's what financial freedom really looks like. Shift your energy toward growth. Most people spend their lives playing defense, trying to manage their losses instead of focusing on building something bigger. But real wealth isn't about cutting back. It's about creating more. So instead of stressing over another $20 saved, ask yourself, how can I level up my skills and increase my earning power? How can I negotiate a raise that adds thousands to my salary? How can I create multiple income streams so money flows in automatically? Defense slows down your losses. Offense builds your future. You can keep playing small, trying to survive on less, and avoiding every unnecessary expense. Or you can flip the game, focus on offense, and start earning so much that cutting back doesn't even matter. So which strategy will actually get you where you want to go? Choose guilt or growth. Your financial reality check. You have two choices. Stay trapped in guilt, scarcity and penny pinching, constantly second-guessing every purchase, stressing over every bill, and feeling like money is always slipping through your fingers. Or step into growth, abundance, and conscious spending, where you're in control, where you can afford what matters, and where your focus is on building more, not cutting back. The mental toll of playing small. Most people live in a constant state of financial stress. They feel guilty for spending, even on things they enjoy. They feel trapped by bills, always fearing they don't have enough. They feel exhausted by the never-ending cycle of saving pennies while still falling short. And after years of playing this game, they realize they're still stuck. Because no matter how much they cut back, they never actually get ahead. What real financial power looks like. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine knowing that your income is always growing because you took control of it. Imagine spending without guilt, not recklessly, but because you built a system where you can. Imagine waking up without money stress, because you have more than enough. That's not a fantasy. That's what happens when you stop playing defense and start playing offense. The easy option versus the right option. Here's the truth. Staying small is easy. It's easy to convince yourself that cutting back is the only way. It's easy to play it safe, to avoid risk, to shrink your dreams to match your paycheck. It's easy to settle for just getting by, because at least it feels familiar. But that's also the choice that guarantees you stay stuck, because no one builds wealth by playing not to lose. So, what path will you choose? Keep living in fear, guilt, and scarcity? Or commit to growth, abundance, and taking control of your financial future? One keeps you exactly where you are. The other actually leads somewhere better. So be honest. Which path are you really on? If you're done shrinking your life, prove it. Comment, think bigger. If you're ready to stop obsessing over pennies and start creating real wealth. Most people will keep playing small, cutting back, stressing over every dollar, and convincing themselves that's success. But the few who flip the script, they're the ones who build the life everyone else wishes they had. And this? This was just the beginning. The uncomfortable financial truths are only getting started. And the ones bold enough to break the rules are the only ones who will win.